Ask and you shall receive. I know people that ask and ask and ask and nothing happens. Because the asking is not done with the voice. When we lost the texts, when we lost the words in our biblical texts that tell us that feeling is the prayer, we began to believe that the words are the prayer. That if we say the right words, the right time of day, or the right number of times, that somehow magically a prayer will happen. And when our prayer is not answered, we become frustrated and we think prayer doesn't work. The science that tells us that we are connected to everything in our world, and that the language of our heart is a language that affects our world. Number one, that all matter is connected. Number two, that there is a field of energy that exists in what we used to think of as the empty space. This field is called the divine matrix, the field, the mind of God, nature's mind, quantum hologram, all different names for this field. Number three, that when we create the right feeling inside of our bodies, in our hearts, that we make changes in the field beyond our bodies. In a Tibetan monastery, 17,000 feet above sea level in the Himalayan mountains, this man is telling us the secret that was lost in our Christian and Jewish traditions when the edits were taken in from the books. And they practice and they live this. Feeling is the prayer. The words are not the prayers. The feeling is the prayer. Feeling is the prayer. This is what is taught in those Tibetan monasteries. The monks know it. The nuns know it. They have taught it. They have practiced it for 1,700 years. There's a catch. Not just any feeling creates the desired effect. Rumi says, out beyond the ideas of wrongdoing and right doing. He says, out beyond our place of judgment, of right and wrong, there's a field. Rumi even calls it a field. He said, there's a field. I will meet you there. What is this place? The place where the feelings occur that create the healing and the miracles is a place that is beyond judgment and beyond ego. It cannot happen in the mind. It must happen in our hearts. One word in Cherokee traditions that means single eye of the heart. The one eye of the heart that sees what is, not the judgment or the bias or the fear. That word is Shante Ishta. That is the part of you where your power lives to heal your body, to heal the bodies of others, to create peace in your world. It's in the place beyond judgment and beyond ego. What is the force that connects everything in the universe? Compassion. Is compassion an experience that we feel in our heart, or is compassion the force that connects the universe? That you and I are capable. We can have a feeling in our hearts. It's the feeling that the universe is made of. Compassion is both the force that connects and the feeling that we experience. And that is what makes compassion so very powerful. A lot of compassion is the ability to see the world for what it is rather than our judgments of what we make it. So the ancient instructions, how do we do this? The instructions are very precise. In the Buddhist traditions and what we're finding in Tibet, number one, they're saying that to create the healing, to create the peace, to create the miracles, first, we must feel as if the miracles have already happened without judgment, without ego. And that's hard for the Western mind. So first we must do this, to feel as if our prayers have already been answered without judgment, without ego. How many have heard of the lost Gospel of Thomas? The lost Gospel of Thomas is powerful because it is believed to be the actual words of Jesus. as he was teaching those around him how to use the power of human emotion in his life. To unleash the force of the divine matrix in our lives, first, we have to understand how it works. And the science tells us how it works. Secondly, we must speak the language that the divine matrix recognizes, and science cannot tell us that. That comes from our past, from our culture, from our history, from those who have learned and used this language for thousands of years. What did Jesus and what did the great masters say about this language? Because it's the same, whether you're talking Buddhist or Hindu or Christian, pre-Christian traditions, they're all telling us that there is a field of energy and that we have the language to use that field. This is an actual page out of the Gospel of Thomas. In the Gospel of Thomas, two very important keys. This was written right around 300 years after the time of Jesus. That feeling is the prayer, one. Two, that we must feel as if our prayers have already been answered. An Egyptian monastery with the texts that used to be our tradition before they were edited. And we're going to look at the instructions that tell us how to do that. Gospel of Thomas. If you have a copy of the Gospel of Thomas, this is verse 106, translated from the Nag Hammadi Library. It says, when you make the two, thought and emotion, one, you will say to the mountain, mountain, move away, and the mountain will move away. Saying that when you can marry your thought and your emotion into one single potent force, that is when you have the power to speak to the world. Secondly, when you make the two one, the two, thought and emotion, when the two become one in our hearts, we create the feelings in our bodies. When thought and emotion become one, the Gospel of Thomas, another verse. Now this is verse 48. It says almost the same thing. This was so important that it was recorded at least 3 different times in the same Gospel. Look at what this says. If the two make peace with each other in this one house. When Jesus is talking about the house or the temple, what is he talking about? Precisely you. You are the house. You are the temple. If the two make peace with each other in this house, if thought and emotion become one, if they make peace with each other in this house, look what happens. They will say to the mountain, move away, and it will move away. He's telling us again in a completely different verse how powerful it is to marry thought and emotion. But they still haven't told us how. How do you do this? In the early Christian Bible, your Bible today, there is a passage. How many have heard, ask and ye shall receive? Have you heard that before? The asking is not done, please, please bring this to my world. That's not asking. To ask, we must speak to the field, to the divine matrix, in the language the field recognizes. And a language that's meaningful. The field doesn't recognize our voice, it recognizes the power of our heart. Our heart, we have a feeling, creates electrical waves, magnetic waves. That's the language the field recognizes. So when you create the feeling in your heart as if your prayer is already answered, that creates the electrical and the magnetic waves that bring that answer to you. They took out the 2 sentences that tell us how to ask into the original Aramaic. It looks very similar. So this is the retranslated version with the missing pieces. All things that you ask straightly, directly from inside my name, you will be given. It says, so far you've not done this, because if we ask with our voice, we have not done this. Ask without hidden motive and be surrounded by your answer. Be enveloped by what you desire, that your gladness be full. It's not saying to speak a word. It's saying to be surrounded, to feel as if If you are surrounded, you are feeling as if your answer has already happened. Be enveloped by what you desire, because that is when your thought and your emotion become one. You think the thought of the healing in your loved ones, and you feel the love of that thought. They become one, and that is the language that this field recognizes. This is precisely what the Buddhists are telling us. Ask without the judgment of the right or the wrong or the good or the bad. Ask without the ego. Ask from the heart, feeling from the result as if it's already happened.
Okay. Wow.